Investigators say an inmate managed to get a gun inside Smith State Prison and then killed the kitchen staffer before turning the gun on himself. Tonight, investigators say they believe the inmate and victim had a relationship.
This is the story of Aureon Shavea Grace, age 24, a prison employee who was shot while at work in the kitchen at Smith State Prison in Georgia by her prison bae, Jaydrekus Hart, who was an inmate serving 20 years for voluntary manslaughter. Somehow Jaydrekus was able to sneak a gun into the prison with the help of who knows who, and he ended up using the same gun to shoot Aureon, her beloved prison girlfriend who just started working in the prison not too long ago, for some unknown reason, before fatally injuring himself too. Hello and welcome to Twisted Crimes. Subscribe and hit the like button for more stories. This story will be taking us to the Georgia Department of Corrections in Glenville, Georgia. Located in the lower coastal plain of southeast Georgia, Tattnall County is the state's 25th county and covers 484 square miles. Aureon Shavea Grace, aged 24, lived in Statesboro, Georgia. She went to Statesboro High School where she obtained her diploma. Aureon was said to be a nice and happy person who cared for everyone around her. Aureon was a mother to a beautiful baby girl. That was her life and her bestie. Everything in her life revolved around that little girl. She worked with Aramark, a Pennsylvania-based company that provides food and commissary services for justice-impacted individuals, officers and staff, and visitors in state and county facilities. She was a recent hire at the job. She was employed in January for the Philadelphia-based company responsible for the prison's food services. She loved her job because she loved helping people in any capacity she can. This job meant she had to work with the Georgia Department of Corrections. During this time, Aureon met an inmate named Jaydrekus Hart. They both worked in the kitchen at the GDC. They started liking each other and they ended up having a personal relationship. He was very active on social media despite being in prison.
Duck my own bitch when he ain't love me. When I ain't have my slider right, them hoe when they ain't fuck me. I be on some 55 shit. I know my mom proud of me. I know they cook real good. I just can't put down this shit. I do it real big. But they don't acknowledge it. Look at where I live. You know I can't stop. My crib still gated, but we ain't used to have not a dollar, we gon' take it. Robberies and grand.
Somewhere along the line, they became very close. Jaydrekus, on the other hand, was serving a 20-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter with a release date of June 2043. He had been in prison since 2015 and somehow he found a way to get close to Aureon's heart and they started a relationship. Not knowing she was being lied to by the inmate, she became loyal to him. He seemed happy and excited with his catch even on his social media post.
Man, the bitch looked at me and said, bitch, you look like you him.
What you told her?
I am. Man, the
On June 16, 2024, somehow Jaydrekus was able to lay his hands on a gun and things went south from there. Jaydrekus got upset for some reasons with Aureon. He shot her and then later fatally hurt himself too before anyone could get to him. No one knows for sure what happened between them to make him shoot his girlfriend. A note he wrote before this incident was found by the authorities, who were shocked as to how a gun made its way into the prison.
Right now, the Georgia Department of Corrections is working to get answers. They want to know how an inmate was able to get a gun, shoot and kill a food service worker at Smith State Prison before turning the gun on himself. It happened over the weekend. WJCL 22 News' Brooke Butler has been in touch with the GDC as well as civil rights advocates. She joins us now live in the studio. And Brooke, we're learning the victim and the offender were in a personal relationship.
Yeah, Shannon, the Department of Corrections made that announcement today. The department also said it found a suicide note that appears to have been left by the inmate. But civil rights advocates say they want to know how a gun got into the prison in the first place.
This was the tipping point right here.
Early Sunday morning at Smith State Prison in Glenville, the Georgia Department of Corrections says inmate Jaydrekus Hart shot and killed 24-year-old food service worker Aureon Grace before shooting himself.
I've briefly spoken with the sister of Miss Grace, and they are understandably upset.
The GDC says it appears the two were in a personal relationship. The Corrections Department says it has recovered the gun used. It's now working to learn how the firearm got into the prison to begin with.
I don't think they've ever had anything like this happen before inside of a facility.
Brian Randolph is with the Human and Civil Rights Coalition of Georgia. He tells me he actually contacted the GDC last year, telling them he heard a gun was in the prison.
So we were tipped off in May of last year of a possible weapon that had been dropped off via a drone.
He says he sent this text message to GDC's general counsel, telling her exactly what he was told.
We never heard anything else about it.
We reached out to the GDC asking them about this. They said, quote, "That was investigated by our Office of Professional Standards and no leads were developed." Randolph argues GDC should have tried harder.
I guess, my question is, the next time when they get another one in, how many more people are going to get killed besides two?
Advocates believe the violence inside Smith State Prison is caused in part by understaffing. Randolph believes this latest incident will likely only make matters worse when it comes to hiring.
Nobody's going to go and work in these places.
It was also confirmed by the authorities that both Jaydrekus and Aureon were in a relationship. The investigation is still ongoing and it is still unclear how he obtained the weapon. No conclusion has been reached yet on that matter. The gun is now in the hands of investigators. Friends and family have since paid tribute to Aureon, describing her as kind and pure-hearted. It's still a very shocking incident because the last thing that should make its way into a jail should be a gun, especially into the hands of someone who was serving time for voluntary manslaughter. This won't be the first time something like that has happened in the same facility. In October, Correctional Officer Robert Clark, 42, was killed by an inmate wielding a homemade weapon. The inmate, serving a sentence for murder, attacked Clark from behind, leading to his death.
Yeah, and the biggest concern tonight is people really aren't sure about how that inmate managed to get his hands on a gun behind bars at one of the state's maximum security prisons and then use it. The Department of Corrections still does not have an explanation for us tonight, but we've since learned that the kitchen employee killed early Sunday morning was just 24 years old.
That, to me, is shocking to the conscience, and I hope that this is a wake-up call for the Georgia Department of Corrections.
Joshua Schiffer has practiced criminal law in Georgia for 2 decades. He says this incident demonstrates a complete failure by the Department of Corrections leaders.
This institution, Smith, is a notorious institution because it's a high-security institution dealing with some of Georgia's most dangerous and threatening inmates.
Back in October, investigators say an inmate there shanked 42-year-old guard Robert Clark to death from behind. Earlier last year, the GBI charged the prison's warden in a sprawling contraband conspiracy. Hart was serving time for voluntary manslaughter and aggravated battery from a 2015 case out of Carroll County. His earliest release date would have been 2043.
This wasn't a shank or a piece of wood or a razor blade. This was a firearm with ammunition, and everybody needs to realize how dangerous this situation was and how indefensible this death is.
The entire state correctional system has been under a years-long federal investigation into allegations of civil rights. Just a little while ago, a spokesperson for the prisons told us they believe Hart and Grace had a romantic relationships. They say he did leave behind a note, but there is still no clear answer about how that gun got into a Supermax facility at this point.
These incidents spotlight the persistent dangers faced by correctional staff in closed security facilities. Smith State Prison, which houses offenders considered violent or escape risks, has struggled with internal issues beyond inmate violence. In February 2023, Warden Brian Adams was arrested and charged with racketeering, bribery, and other offenses following a state investigation into a contraband smuggling operation within the prison. The scandal culminated in Adams' dismissal and further emphasized the challenges in maintaining security and integrity in the institution. The dual tragedies and the warden's arrest underscore systemic issues at Smith State Prison. Our sincere condolences to the friends and families of Aureon Grace. We wish and hope the best for her young daughter. A very sad, twisted and disturbing case. We hope her soul continue to rest in peace. Please stay safe out there and see you guys in the next video.